So welcome to today's celebration for our friend Sidney Steinberg. I'm Gail Rubin. I'm actually a certified funeral celebrant, so I do this professionally. But today we're here as friends of Sid's. And we've set up a memorial table with items. We've been going through his apartment and downsizing, getting ready to clear out the apartment. And in the process, finding out more and more about Sid and his remarkable life. I want to thank you all for being here today and welcome you to come up and share stories of Sid. As you may or may not know, so Sid died Tuesday a week ago, May 3rd, 2022, at the age of 94. He would have been 95 on June 19th. He lived a good, long life, and basically he just stopped breathing, taking in oxygen. It was a trip to the hospital on Monday. They thought he was doing better, and they were going to release him back to Vida Llena. And as soon as they took that oxygen mask off his face, his oxygen levels tanked down to 40% range, which is dead. They worked all night to keep getting his oxygen levels up, but by 6 in the morning the next day, he was checking out. He wanted to go be with Jean. He was married to Jean for 66 years before she died in February of 2016. And he missed her so terribly. And as you'll be able to see on this memorial table, we have their wedding invitation, their marriage certificate. They were a couple. And I don't know if you know the story about Jean. They met in college. And she was in the library, and she sees this tall, blonde-haired, blue-eyed guy, and she was like, ooh, I want to meet him. She pushed her books off of the table so he would come over and pick them up, and that's how they got to talking. And they talked ever since, and they had a daughter, Suzanne, who unfortunately predeceased them at the age of 50. She was here in Albuquerque, and it was a tragedy for both Sid and Jean. She was buried in Congregation Albert Cemetery, and as a result, even though Sid had this great naval career, he could have been buried in Santa Fe National Cemetery, but he and Jean wanted to be close to Suzanne. So this afternoon, we just buried Sid next to Jean in Congregation Albert Cemetery. And we can all hope that they're all having a Steinberg party in heaven right now for that great reunion. Going through the apartment, my husband Dave and I are the personal representatives, and so we're helping to shut down his apartment and take care of estate matters. But I've found so many wonderful things that speak to Sid and his life. Of course, this beautiful dress, navy cap, but also this is heavy. Come and pick this thing up. It's an ashtray that's inscribed to Sid, L.S. Steinberg, LTJGUSN. What's that stand for?
Lieutenant Junior Grade.
Okay, Lieutenant Junior Grade.
The L is his middle name. SL?
The L, Lewis, yeah. And USS EPCE, R 852, Operations Officer. So what a great, statement, and it's heavy. I guess so that when you're on the ship, it doesn't fall off the edge of whatever. he and Jean were incredible supporters of various causes, and I found a list from 2014 of all of the causes that they were donating to. The Jewish Federation of New Mexico, Congregation Albert, the Nature Conservancy, the UNM Children's Hospital, Oxfam America, Southern Poverty Law Center, Amnesty International, the National Wildlife Federation, Defenders of Wildlife, Planned Parenthood, B'nai B'rith, Population Connection, something with that, Magen David Adam, I think that's the it's the health service in Israel. KUNM, New Mexico PBS, International Rescue Commission, Feeding America. He was a huge supporter of Feeding America. Santa Fe Chamber of Music, he and Jean loved opera and classical music. Southwest Art, they were huge collectors. They also supported, of course, Rutgers University, which they both attended, and that's where they met. Americans United, Anti-Defamation League, the Albuquerque Museum, and National Jewish Health. So, I mean, they were incredible supporters of charities, and I would encourage you to please come and take a copy of the Constitution of the United States, thanks to their support of the American Civil Liberties Union. We got a bunch, so please help yourself.
Did you see the card? He's a lifetime member of the ACLU.
Yes, we brought this, the lifetime member of the ACLU. So there's some beautiful pictures of Sid and Jean as a young couple. They're quite striking. And of course, here's their wedding photo. And then there's a picture over here with Suzanne and when she married Mr. Henry, and she took his last name and kept that. So if you go to the cemetery to look for Suzanne's name, it's Henry, not Steinberg. There's coins from their travels. Sid and Jean loved to travel and go to places where there are a lot of photos, and they would bring back keepsakes, and they would bring things to give to their friends. They were such kind and generous people. I met them through Congregation Albert, and my husband Dave had recently become a teacher, so we had teacher things to talk about and had that in common with them. They were wonderful, warm friends. This was Jean's necklace. She gave this to me while she was still alive, and I wear it in her honor and Sid's honor today. Would anybody like to add some stories about life with Sid and Jean?
Okay, I met Sid and Jean through Alcoholics Anonymous, and Jean was pretty straightforward about her addiction, her problem with alcohol back in her youth and such. And the first time I met them was at a noon meeting. And this guy sitting on the wall next to his wife said, "Hi, my name's Sid, and I'm a recovering human being." And I thought, I want to get to know this guy. I want to get to know somebody who admittedly is trying to become more human. And over the course of time, my wife Cynthia and we became closer to them. I remember getting a phone call one night from Jean, and it was about 10 o'clock, and they wanted a ride to the hospital because Sid was having pneumonia. He had another bout of pneumonia. And we sat there all night with him. And Sid was telling us stories and things, and I was, telling him my drunk-o-log and just, all night long. But the thing that always impressed me about Sid and Jean was, like Gail said, they started talking, And the conversation continued for 66 years. And I think that's the essence of their relationship, because if you can't talk that long to another human being if you don't have some humility and you don't have some honesty with you. And that's what made them unique in my mind. I mean, they weren't flashy. They didn't go around flaunting what it was they had or anything. They were just down-to-earth, humble people. And that is irresistible. That is just, there's no force in the world that can overcome that. But I do remember times when Sid was rather upset at the television when he had the news on. But, I gotta say this about Sid, and I don't know if anybody else here knows this, but I'm sure he's mentioned it to you, somebody, but he was part of the Bolsheviks here. Yes. And he was a proud member of the Bolsheviks. Whoa. And he relished that. And I sometimes would feed him literature, I said, you gotta read this, because I said, do you have an opening? I'd like to join. So, anyway, we're gonna miss Sid. The world is gonna miss Sid. But if we can just live according to his example, with humility and honesty, we'll be okay. And someday there'll be somebody standing up here telling silly stories about us. So, who knows?
Well, hello again all to the people that I'm shooting for the first time today. And to the people that I've known through Sid and Jean for quite some time. Sid was my cousin, he's my last male relative, and I was his last male relative. They like me to call them aunt and uncle when I first came back into their lives about 25 years ago, because they hadn't seen me since I was maybe 10. My grandparents who raised me, I live with my grandparents, and they took over the raising duties of me from about 12. They always used to tell me so much about Sid and Jean, and I first met Suzanne in the 70s when she was going to Emerson College in Boston, where we were living. They loved Sid so much, they talked about him so much, and Sid loved them so much, they would always tell me that he was like their favorite. They liked him better than their own kids. But Sid's father was my grandfather's brother. In any event, that was, you both were starting to give me some more things, lots of things to think about. Just cutting back to the Bolsheviks for a moment, I had actually, we both did our Ancestry.com together, so we could see that, and there are other, I found some other photos of people that you don't know from Sid's side of the family who have passed away a long time ago. In Bolshevik military, I mean, they were like Sid. I mean, I guess I didn't get the gene because I'm 5'11", but Sid was over, he had to be over 6, and the people on that side of the family were, I guess, Bolsheviks. I mean, they were. That's what I found out through Ancestry.com. And anyhow, cutting away from that, Sid and I never talked about the Bolsheviks. I wanted to share a story about when I came up when they took me to the top of Mount Sandia.
Sandia Mountain.
Sandia Mountains, thank you.
Yeah.
I think they also call that the Sangro de Cristo Range.
No.
Is that not the same thing?
That's at Santa Fe.
Confusing it.
Yeah.
They took me to the top, and I know, I live in Los Angeles, which is only about 200 feet sea level. Here we're at, I think,
You're at 5,000.
yeah, 5,000 here.
10,000
So
on top
I
of the
guess I
mountain.
can lose my breath here if I jog. But they took me to the top of that, which is another 5,000 feet. And I was feeling young and very, passionate. And I was just started jogging, running around, looking around, and Sid and Jean were like, "Go, just take it easy up here." And about 30 minutes into that, I passed out because of oxygen.
Oh, wow.
I mean, I got what do you call it, oxygen poisoning, or
Oh, wow.
Altitude.
altitude poisoning.
Yeah.
They were perfectly fine. I drove them up, and I started, as we were leaving, they had me wait a little bit to see what would happen. We sat down, there was like a little restaurant in there just to relax, and I just started feeling like I was drunk, I was gonna pass out, I was dizzy. I started driving them back down, and I said, I have to, and I had to park and pull over and pass out. And they drove me back down. And
Oh, wow.
they were doing fine, and I was, so I guess they've been acclimated to it, and they like the outdoors. Something else I think anybody knows about them, aside from the fact that their contributions to the Sierra Club, and the photos you've seen inside their house, how much they like to be part of the outdoors. Old photos of Sid hiking and with Suzanne. There's a lot of stuff spinning inside my head right now thinking about them. There's so many stories. I'm trying to focus on the positive and the nice fun stories. But that was wonderful when you talked about. Because I was going through that story if it didn't happen.
About the
Gene
books.
pushing the books
Yeah.
over.
Yeah.
And I've listened to Sid laugh about it, just talking when they told me about that. But because I had left Boston and I moved to Canada, moved to New York, I had lost touch with them from the time I was about. I hadn't seen them between, I think, 15 years old and then maybe. I'm 57, so I've been back in their lives about 18 or 19 years. And my favorite people, just closest relatives. And, we all have cousins, first cousin, second cousin, all that stuff, but they were just so wonderful. We talked. We tried to talk as much as possible, and I guess, as Gail said, having a party as a family together now, I can't imagine what it's like to live without a child. And him and Jean both had that strength that they could get through that. They were such an intelligent couple, both teachers, with an IQ score that I probably couldn't come anywhere near close to, and they still could have it, even being well beyond the years. Even with me having a memory issue, he still made it without having a memory issue that I could tell. But anyhow, they're also their friendships with everybody here. Everybody here today and people that are not here today, that are not in the room visiting, has given me some great new not new friendships, because I've known you well, now we're getting more connected, right? But people here in La Vida Llena, people outside of La Vida Llena, they had a great connection of friends. And that says a lot. It shows that they had the personality and ability to make friends and just share life. I think they shared a great life together. I can't even imagine. They were married longer than I've been alive, and they lived longer than their daughter survived, and they were able to still be there for each other. And that's all I have to say about that. That they were extremely strong in the love that they had, and the. Would you like me to read a letter?
Sure.
We found lots of these letters from when, I guess, Gene was writing to him while he was serving in the military. I'm not sure what the date of this one is, but maybe instead of getting all the way through the entire letter, because there's so many different things here, but ending the letter. Hell, love, I want to be up a little earlier tomorrow, so I'll say goodnight now. I love you so much that nothing else seems very important. My whole life is wrapped up in you and in loving you. You're in my heart's desire, my dearest dream of happiness. With you, I know what being alive is worth. All my love, Jean. And this was maybe when they were in their 20s, maybe in their 30s, maybe not, definitely not older than that. And that seems like, I mean, I think I've had letters like that between me and girlfriends, and we didn't last more than a few years. But they made it almost 70 years. And there's so many, and I think, the one last thing I'll add is that when I had a fight with a girlfriend, we once talked about what it's like to be connected, and they said, well, you can't always agree. Sometimes you get little arguments, but they always made sure that, I'm trying to remember exactly how Jean and Sid said it to me, they find a way to not go to bed mad at each other. Anyhow, thank you.
Thank you.
One of the reactions that came in after the news about Sid's death was from Brianna Crane with Feeding America. Sid would talk to her when he made donations, and he would make donations monthly to this organization. So she sent me this letter that I thought you might enjoy hearing what she had to say about Sid. I had the joy and privilege of knowing and working with Sid for over nearly the last 10 years. Sid was a philanthropist to Feeding America since 2003 and gave generously as well as to the National Jewish Hospital, the ACLU, and Roadrunner Food Bank in Albuquerque, New Mexico, to name a few. I had started having phone conversations with Sid in 2013 when he would call to make a donation. He always asked about the weather in Chicago. He served in the Navy 10 years and spent some time at Great Lakes Naval Base. He also always spoke of the Balloon Festival in Albuquerque and invited me to see it. In 2016, Sid called to change his apartment number and phone number. His wife Jean had had a couple of bad falls and they had moved to a new residence. They also wanted to make certain Jean's name was listed on their donations. For the next 2 years, I looked forward to Sid's monthly calls to make their donations. He loved to chat, and he loved to invite me to the Balloon Festival. My lunch with Sid at Paisanos in Albuquerque in 2017 is one of my favorite memories. When I picked him up from the residence, he was waiting in the lobby. There was a pin affixed to his hat that I knew had significance for him. I asked him about it at lunch, and he told me the story of buying a drink for a French soldier during the French Indochina War. The soldier liked Sid so much, he gave him his paratrooper medallion. That is not a small thing to give to a passing stranger. After lunch, Sid showed me his residence and the pictures of Jean and his only daughter, Suzanne, who passed away 11 years before we met. He told me he met Jean at Rutgers as students. She knocked her books over on purpose in the library to grab Sid's attention. I think he told that story a lot. The last time I had a conversation with Sid was through a helper in 2018. His eyesight and hearing were getting worse, but Sid wanted to make his donation by phone. I kept a one-sided correspondence after that with birthday cards and handwritten notes that I hoped were read to him. He was not able to come to the phone. I miss those phone calls. I hope Sid's journey has the most spectacular balloon festival. I hope Jean and Suzanne have big hugs waiting and that an old friend stops by for his medallion. Thank you for touching our lives, Sid, and so many others. We are so lucky to work alongside wonderful humans. And this is the photo that she sent. Do you have this hat? The one with the paratrooper?
I do.
Okay. So, good. And one of the other things that I found, you know, we found the funeral information left over from Suzanne's funeral and from Jean's funeral. But there was this poem, this was in Suzanne's funeral information, and I think this is a good way to maybe wrap up our celebration, unless there's anybody else who wants to share any stories. So this is a poem, it's titled, "Miss Me, But Let Me Go." When I come to the end of the road, and the sun has set for me, I want no rites in a gloom-filled room. Why cry for a soul set free? Miss me a little, but not too long, and not with your head bowed low. Remember the love that we once shared. Miss me, but let me go. For this is a journey that we all must take, and each must go alone. It's all part of the Master's plan, a step on the road to home. When you are lonely and sick at heart, go to the friends we know, and bury your sorrows in doing good deeds. Miss me, but let me go. So we will miss Sid, and we will let him go, but we will keep him in our hearts, because he and Jean and Suzanne were all special people. And like the Beatles say, in the end, the love you make is equal to the love you take. So let's all increase the amount of love that we can share in this world. And I thank you for coming today to help honor Sid's memory. And let's peruse some of the memorial items, and don't forget to take a copy of the Constitution. The ACLU would want you to have that. Thank you all so much.